I believe we have the go, Shana. Is that a thumbs up?
So welcome back from lunch, and we have our next session is monetization of local content on digital platform. We have with us Jared Timmins from TVU Networks, Adi Awofisayo from YouTube, and Louis Manu from Yflix. Christine will be our moderator from Deutsche Welle. Christine, over to you.
Thanks so much for that, Shana. Hello, everybody. It's great to be getting in on this conversation with you all. As Shana has rightly introduced, my name is Christine Mundu. I'm a journalist at the Deutsche Welle, and I will be moderating our conversation for the next few minutes. We're very thrilled that you're in our company. I'm looking forward to your questions, to certainly bringing them into the conversation. So please do write to us as we have this conversation, and I will be sure to direct your questions to our panelists. What I'm going to do now is, because time really isn't on our side and we've got quite a lot to get through, I'm going to be introducing the panelists again, and I will ask them to just say a bit of a sentence about what it is that they're actually doing where they are. Louis, we'll start with you. If you could just unmute your microphone over there and tell us exactly what you're doing at Yflix at the minute.
Okay, great. My name is Louis Manu. I'm the co-founder of Yflix, largely in charge of commercial and some aspects of tech. Got few experiences around the world in technology, telco, and content companies. Our platform basically offers international and African content in a larger scale to subscribers in Africa, with a bold agenda to democratize content in Africa, and also offer this at an affordable price point coupled with internet data.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much. And we're looking forward, Louis, to learning more about what you all are doing at Yflix. Jared, I'll come over to you now.
Hey, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be part of the panel. Jared Timmins, I'm SVP of Solutions for TVU Networks. TVU Networks is a broadcast company that has innovated with technology to allow anyone really from anywhere to be able to create content in the cloud for very, very low cost dollars compared to what it used to take to do things on premise, all in the cloud. We believe kind of the same thing that Louis was talking about with democratizing content, but making it so easy that anyone who has a story to tell, anyone who has a message, anyone who has the talent can take to the technology, pay for what they need, and really be able to create entire channels with a full broadcast look and feel on air to any platform. And we believe this will allow the content explosion to expedite even more. So looking forward to the discussion.
Looking forward to that too. And before I get to you, Adi, of course, we're looking at African content, right? And the monetization of this content on digital platforms. And I'm sure you've picked up the theme now as Louis and Jared have introduced themselves. The lady among the men, Adi, you come on now and tell us about what it is that you're doing at YouTube there.
Cool. Thanks, Christine. And thanks again for having me. I'm Adi Awofisayo. I look after content partnerships in Sub-Saharan Africa at YouTube. So what that means is we work with media partners, broadcasters, publishers, creators to make sure they get the best out of YouTube. So as you probably all know, YouTube is a free and open platform. So we want to make sure that anyone who has a voice, anyone who has a piece of story that they want to tell can upload it on YouTube, can monetize it, and can reach a global audience. So we work with partners in Sub-Saharan Africa to make sure that they can do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Adi. So let us get into the conversation. I think before we get to the actual content itself, which is, of course, the most exciting part for me as well, really, is let's talk about the specificities of the African market. I'm talking about...
welcome back from lunch, and we have our next...
Am I hearing? Okay, there we go. I'm talking specifically about the consumption habits, and perhaps Adi, let's start with you there, because data is, of course, a very big part of how people can consume content that is created on platforms like YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, even though obviously in Sub-Saharan Africa, data is still a little bit of a challenge in terms of cost and even just accessibility. We're still seeing people come on YouTube to watch content, right? There's long form content and there's short form content. And I think what's really interesting about Africa is people love to consume local content, right? People love to consume content from their own country. So in Nigeria, whether that's Nollywood movies, so we see a lot of Nollywood producers uploading on YouTube, not only for people in market, but even for a global audience, for the diaspora.
But Adi, I wondered if, so you did say data does remain expensive, and that is often, in fact, I think in Africa we have among the highest in terms of prices when it comes to data. Is that a significant barrier? Could YouTube be getting more views essentially if that were not the case? Are there many more people who just can't be on YouTube as often because data is just way too expensive?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if data wasn't an issue, I think we'll see many, many more eyeballs on YouTube. I think, using India as an example, when Reliance Jio basically crashed prices in India, we saw such huge uptake of like watch time and just viewership on YouTube. So if data, and we've even seen it in Africa too, like for instance, we worked very closely with Safaricom in Kenya for the Kikoji race in 2019. Where they basically did an activation where people could watch the race using zero data, right? So they opened up free data on that day, and the uptake was huge, right? Their network even crashed because people were, just accessing data to watch Kikoji actually, win the race. So yeah, I think short answer is if data is not an issue, digital platforms will definitely be thriving in Africa.
Right. Okay, that's very interesting. I mean, now I've heard something called free data, and I think that would be of interest to a lot of people. But Jared, talk to us about the connectivity issues, right? So moving away from the pricing of the data and how expensive or accessible it is, but just the actual connectivity. And I imagine we're talking about infrastructure here.
Yeah, I think so. From our perspective, TVU started as a company that was doing aggregated cellular, right? So what we've done is we built technology kind of like what when you use a MiFi hotspot, but really professional, kind of on steroids, and able to take any internet, whether that's satellite internet, whether that's low orbit internet, that's balloon based, that's coming out, whether that's kind of the Elon Musk's new satellite internet, or multiple cellular providers. So one of the things that I think technology has enabled, even with these now dual SIM cell phones, where you can bond those cellular elements as well as Wi-Fi, and start to be able to really get content out of anywhere. So outside of the cost of that data, which I think we all agree should be lowered, and would open up probably a revolution and renaissance of content coming from Africa, which would be wonderful. But I think the other thing is being able to get that story, being able to get that shot, being able to shoot that game, even when you don't have the infrastructure, even when you don't have fiber connectivity, and being able to utilize a combination of cellular devices or cellular aggregation that allows you to produce a Wi-Fi signal that can supply broadcast capabilities for an entire venue. Those things enable broadcasters to be creative, allow content that wouldn't have been able to be created in certain locations to happen. And I think that technology is only going to become more accessible and cheaper, as well as the options that we can start to aggregate become more prolific, because I think there is a great, even, a lot of effort by Google to do some low orbit balloon-based internet distribution to areas as well. And I think that as we see that happen more and more, we're going to see more ability to use these kinds of technologies to produce from anywhere.
Very interesting. Louis, come in here as well, just on the issue of how video streaming can become sort of more accessible, right, to both content providers as well as for local viewers. Just from we're talking about the consumption here, not quite the content itself.
Yeah. So with respect to consumption, we on our side always been championing the fact that there's one thing having access to free content, as people largely would portray, and then also the other thing, also having connectivity, and also other thing getting the right kind of people, the audience that would have the amount of money to be able to pay for that connectivity, to be able to stream that content. And that largely plays in our business. And this is how come, like in most of the countries that we launch as a company, we look at coming up with data propositions that in connection with the telcos that we partner with, data propositions that makes customers feel that it is not just the assets that we sell to them, it's also we giving them connectivity, or also the ability for them to also stream on these different platforms. So like, I'll give an example. In Nigeria, we go as low as 100 Naira. and give you a free 250 MB up to 2.5 gigabytes of data that you can actually use to stream. And these are our highest selling propositions in the country. They know it too well that it's not just the access, it's also you being able to consume the access that's been given to you by these big OTT companies around. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So that's a very concrete example there. Thanks so much for that. Okay, let's move on to the actual content itself. And Adi, you had opened this conversation for us a little bit. You talked about, elaborate basically when you were talking about how what are people's preferences in terms of the actual content?
Yeah, so on YouTube, I mean, I think some of the biggest verticals that we see are music. I think music is huge on the continent. Movies is also very big on the continent. And then lifestyle content. And lifestyle is so broad, right? Because lifestyle can be a creator cooking. It can be a creator's vlog. It can be just family content. So those are, I think, the three biggest ones that we see. But even outside Africa, we see things like gaming. And I think gaming is a vertical that in Africa, I'm curious to see us grow because I think there's so much monetization opportunity actually in gaming. But on the continent, we've not seen gaming be huge in terms of people uploading content onto YouTube and people also viewing. But I think that's also a data constraint issue because gaming does require kind of a lot of bandwidth to watch and to upload. But I think movies, music, lifestyle are sort of the key verticals that we see as huge on the continent.
Right, Louis, I saw you nodding your head there. So you sort of agree with those themes. And as a content consumer, I certainly was nodding along with you there as well. But I wondered in terms of when we're competing now, in terms of local content producers competing with international content, what are you seeing there?
Largely on our side, what we see is that there's a huge distinct. I wouldn't featureize it because I don't want to speak that way because I'm too techy. But basically, there's a huge distinct differences between local and international content. Local content connects mostly with the various localities. You would say that. Some of the markets might resonate with each other. I would say Ghanaian and Nigerian content sometimes are in connection. There's a lot of Nigerian content that we actually stream in Ghana that a lot of people love and vice versa. But international to local content, local being African content, there's a huge difference in that. We've seen as we being present in Kenya, we've seen a lot of people with interest in international content and very few people with interest in the local content as well, not the same as what we are seeing in Ghana and Nigeria. But with the fact that on those regards, we know it too well that people are connected to the very local African content, the stories that are being told in that because they can resonate with it, they can feel themselves in those stories. So stories in African local content actually do not really in a larger way compete because they are two totally complete target markets and they have different audiences altogether. On our platform, we know how to target, we know what we are targeting, and we basically target the mid to low tier when it comes to income spenders. And these are the guys that are very, very interested in local content. These are guys that are on normal FTAs consuming every day. And that's the same kind of content they want to see on any bigger platform and such.
Just a quick follow-up. Can you compare the quality then? I know you said it's very difficult because it's also preferences to say local content versus international content, right? Because it's very different things. But from a quality perspective, are they equated?
Not too, I'm afraid, because reality is such that, there are some people that would shoot movies with just their cell phones, with low-end devices. They have bigger cameras and stuff, like not compared to the kind of infrastructure that is being used to build, the bigger platform. But then one thing that most people also seem to forget is also the storyline. The storyline is what actually connects people. As much as you would want to compare issues or detailing around metadata, you would also want to look at the storyline in totality. So if international content comes in a way that it portrays the storyline of the local people, they will love it with respect to the fact that it is shot well, it is produced well, and you can have the right quality and stuff in there. On our platform, what we actually do is we also have a benchmark. As much as our benchmark is as low as possible, we also look at how original the content is, the quality of the content, the kind of metadata it comes with it. Largely enough, we've contacted over 1,000+ young filmmakers that are creating great content with not too high-end devices, but basically these are devices that are, appreciable. These are content that you can actually put on any platform and monetize. And that's basically the level that we set in the market and what we are actually considering.
In fact, you provided the perfect segue to my question to you, Jared, now, and this is one really on behalf of content producers. What are the new possibilities for them in terms of creating content? I mean, I just think of a film set and just how much goes into that in terms of resources and capacity, these huge cameras, huge crews, lights everywhere. But Louis is talking about people producing stuff on cell phones. So talk to us a little about those possibilities, those new possibilities for content creators in Africa.
Certainly. I mean, I think what happened in media overall is COVID basically took away a 24-month roadmap that everyone had to move to the cloud. Right? We were forced overnight. Everything shut down. We had to get up on air. Internationally, everyone was just trying to get their story out regardless. Right? People became accustomed to a lot lower quality because we couldn't get into these environments. But at the same time, a lot of innovation happened. And so now with the latencies that we can do in the cloud and with the technologies that they have, like the latest iPhone that's just about to come out, the iPhone 13, with the cinema modes and the focal aspects of what that can accomplish, and just the camera that's in your pocket, we start to see that we can start to enable the best storytellers to win regardless of what the technology is, because the commoditization of cell phones and even the latest Android phones allow you to do 4K HDR 60 frames of video. So I think there is some bandwidth limitations, but being able to do that and do that very inexpensively and do that in a way that people like gamers can control productions with a game controller, or people who are streamers can now get into broadcast. And now you can create what we at TVU call community production, right? Which allows us to all be connected in the cloud across regions, across locations, and to work together to be able to create new and different kinds of engaging content that I think changes what it means to be a viewer, or because now most of the time we're now more participants in everything that we do, which opens up different monetization models. It opens up the ability for those who have the talent and those who have the passion for storytelling to not have that technical limitation any longer. And I think that will only continue to increase year after year as we see more and more compute innovation and optic innovation from cell providers and people like that. I think this is just the beginning of a renaissance.
That's really fascinating. Adi, I saw you nodding there. Did you perhaps want to weigh in at this end of the conversation before I move us on?
No, I think Jared's point just made a lot of sense. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Everybody agrees. Let's go over to some of those international platforms, right? That we would sort of be competing with. Talk to us about your pricing, Louis, in terms of your product offering and just the pricing flexibility. I know you sort of hinted at it, but just elaborate for us there a little bit, and what you would be facing from other international platforms. What are those international platforms?
Okay, so as much as we want to democratize content in Africa, make it accessible to a lot more people, we also know it too well. I'm from a huge telco background, and I on that side, we've been going back and forth on trying to get big streaming platforms onto telco platforms where it becomes quite very easy to monetize, and also very easy for them to also access a number of people at the same time, because telcos in general gives inorganic growth to most companies that launch on it. Most vast services, you could launch a product today and tomorrow end up with 100,000 subs, and literally that's what telcos provide. But then there's also a bit of legalities that goes in there with respect to how much you have to offer them, or with respect to revenue share and stuff like that. Now, considering that, we know it too well, most people in Africa have, one of the easiest way of contacting people in Africa is through their mobile phones. As much as we are an OTT platform, we know people use us on phones, on tablets, on TV, and a lot more. Now, one of the easiest way to get these people on our platforms is to go through telcos. In a way, we sell our proposition through them, coupled with data. So in one part, we know it too well that the majority of the people that we want to connect to are not people that has like, you know, the $17, $18 a month, or even up to $7 a month to be paying for the kind of content they need to pay for. So what we've done on our side is we reduced our pricing significantly in order to also consume some part of the data proposition that comes from the telcos as well. We reduce our pricing. Telcos comes with data proposition. They also reduce their pricing, and together we form one bulk pricing that allows customers in Africa, in most places that we've launched locally, to be able to subscribe to these offers with ease. With the exception of that, we also know it too well that you know, card payments and a lot more are not, you know, the very ways that people love to use. There are more prominent ways. In Nigeria, there's bank transfer, which is quite very famous. There's in Ghana, there's mobile money, and even between these countries, there's also direct carrier billing. That's airtime that people would actually top up their airtime and buy products off telcos. And that is the way we monetize our products, or look at a way to get an affordable subscription package to our customers. Aside that, we also look at the frequency of payment, because literally we know back anywhere else in the world, you know that we pay our bills at the end of the month. You subscribe to a package, a Disney package, and you have to pay for it at the end of the month. And they pay in a monthly cycle. That monthly cycle of billing doesn't actually happen in Africa. It happens, but it happens to only the top 5%. If I have to go back and wear my telco hat, I know these numbers too well. You would find very few of your customers doing monthly subscriptions, and a whole lot of them doing daily and weekly, and sometimes mostly pay as you go. And that is the stand we have taken as a company, to create daily, weekly, monthly propositions that fits the market, and that fits every aspect of the market: the high spenders, the mid spenders, and the low spenders. And that is what we have as propositions for most places we've launched in Africa.
That's very interesting. Adi, I'll come to you now. If you can also just perhaps tell us about what YouTube's doing on that front. But that billing cycle is very interesting to the point. I mean, we're accustomed to a monthly billing cycle, well, but on the continent of Africa, it's obviously a very, very different thing, and you've adapted in that sense. Adi, can you talk to us about if YouTube's doing something similar, or?
So, I mean, our main platform is ad supported, right? So it's not subscription supported. So for us, it's a free platform. Anyone can watch it. But then in Africa, even though it's free, people still think of the cost of data, right? So I think, to Louis' point, we also work very closely with telcos. I just gave the example of Safaricom. So we work very closely with telcos to provide video data plans for customers, to make sure that we bring down the cost of data, so that people don't feel like that's a huge barrier to them watching the free content that we have on YouTube. So we work very closely with MTN, with Airtel, with Safaricom in Kenya, with MTN, Vodacom in South Africa, to provide plans that either bring down the cost, or sometimes when we have big initiatives like the Kipkoji one or an Africa Day concert, they provide free plans, actually. So you can basically get like 1 Mbps for free or 2 Mbps for free to watch content on YouTube. So for us, it's more of a free platform, but then working with telcos to make sure that data and the cost of data is not a barrier to watching it. We do have an SVOD. We have something called YouTube Premium, and that's if you want to watch content without ads. So YouTube Premium is basically for in Nigeria, for instance, it's 900. I was going to say $900, but 900 naira, where you can. I know it was $900. That's very expensive. So where you can basically pay that to watch content on YouTube, still for free, but without ads. So you're not going to have, like, you can watch your favorite show without getting into an ad break. Or on our music app, because we have YouTube Music, you can listen to music, background music, and things like that. So even with that, we still work very closely with the telcos to see how we can bundle deals. Because again, data, you still need data to stream music. You still need data to watch your favorite video, even though it's free on the platform.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting how the telcos have embedded themselves in our lives, right? It's in what we watch and how we bank and everything, because you're quite right. Somebody made the point of just the mobile phone penetration on the continent. It is quite something. In fact, I think I saw something about the fact that people typically, yeah, so you've got more mobile phones out there than people have actually identity documents. So that just gives you a sense of what's going on over there. But Jared, I'll come to you now, because I wondered about just what are the strengths and weaknesses of local platforms, specifically maybe coming from a product perspective, if we talk about competition with international platforms.
Well, I mean, I think that largely content proliferation has been hard on platforms, right? When you have a certain telco structure, there's a difficulty as far as being able to expand that, open that up, allow additional choice. I mean, obviously there's several channels and significant channels, but I think that what we're seeing is really a creator need and a desire to be able to be multi-platform, right? And for that to be easy, because right now, if I'm a creator and I'm on one platform that I'm specialized for, say like Twitch, I'm creating on Twitch, or I'm creating on YouTube, or I'm creating on Caffeine, or I'm creating on any of these multitude of different elements. There's a skill set for each of those. There's a specific format you have to deliver to those. There's different monetization elements. There's different things to target. So one of the things we've really been focused on in our products is building the ability to just connect as many of those, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, whether it's your specific CDN, and be able to stream out to multiple places so that you have more platforms that you can combine together as a creator to make different monetization strategies, as well as being able to just get your content out there to as many places as possible. And I do think that what we're seeing is a user-generated content revolution in cell phones. And I think that what I'm hearing everyone say, that stat about there's more cell phones than there are identity documents, is incredible to me. But if you think about what that offers us, especially when data prices become more reasonable, it offers us to be the first at every news story, right? To be able to get content direct from the source, to be able to democratize what it means to make content and syndicate that content out. And so I think that this concept of there are content creators and there are content consumers, I think, is breaking. Everyone is a bi-directional content source. Everyone is watching and participating. In fact, by me watching, I am creating in a sense, right? And so I think once that paradigm changes and people realize that they can also make money off of their viewership of their content, their data, and the things they do, it will allow that to continue to propagate, right? So we're excited about what's coming.
That's very interesting, and you're sparking something that about the fact that you can't just look at somebody and assume this. You can't demarcate this into content producers versus consumers, because effectively that's going both ways. But I did wonder about a local content. Adi, I'll come to you on this one. And is it attracting advertising? Because now we're talking about monetizing this content, right? Is local content bringing in the advertisers?
Yeah, I think before I said, I wanted to just touch on something Jared mentioned in terms of like that consumer and creator line being blurred. Completely agree with that. And I think, with platforms like TikTok, right, where anyone with a phone can create and become a creator and find an audience. And on YouTube, we created shorts, right, because we realized that a lot of people, again, with mobile being so prevalent, especially in a market like Africa, we wanted it to be easy for everyone to decide to create, for everyone to showcase their creativity. So we have this new feature called YouTube Shorts, and it's our short form video. And I think a lot of times when I talk to creators and their barrier to creating on YouTube, yes, data is one, but the other one is they feel like they need a camera, a fancy camera, a studio, a big space to be able to, kind of have their own channel and their following. And that's not the case, but that's what they see, because that's what they're viewing in terms of long form content. But now with YouTube Shorts, we're helping people realize that you just need a phone, and it doesn't even have to be 5 minutes video. It can be 60 seconds, and you can still find an audience. And so I wanted to just double click on that point. But to your point about are we finding advertisers for local content? Yes, definitely. I think in general, advertisers in Africa are not yet advertising on digital as they are on TV, because TV is still king, right? TV is still where the audience is. And so regardless of if it's local content or international content, we're still not seeing a lot of that advertising money move to digital in the way that we would love to see it. It is moving. But, you know, compared to a market like the UK or the US, where, like, you know, in Super Bowl, you know, the ad money is maybe coming down, for instance, and most people are watching on digital, and that money is moving more online. We're not yet seeing that in the market, but I think for advertisers, it's really where the audience is. And on YouTube, the audience does watch local content. And so definitely advertisers put their money against local content as much as they do international.
Louis, come in there on just a bit about, I mean, that's an interesting thing that Addie's also just highlighted. TV is still king, right? I mean, what are you seeing in terms of the migration? Is there going to be an eventual migration to digital platforms where TV won't be king?
I think there's going to be, I mean, TV will forever be king. It's going to be quite, it will be significant. I mean, with respect to what's actually happening in Africa now, and even not just in Africa, in other places in the world, TV is still significant. People want to see stuff on big screens. We've moved from smaller TVs to way larger TVs. Now there are tech stacks that would allow you to combine 5, 6, 7 TVs into one big giant screen for you to put in your house and have a cinematic experience. It is still there. It will be there, but OTT comes in with the ease for you to be able to get some specific original content, and that is how come making all these other OTT platforms really powerful. It's with originality, is with getting that specific kind of content that you're actually looking for, and with that said, the onus is on us for us to be on every platform. And that is the main goal. You don't really have to be just on mobile phone or tablet. You have to be everywhere to be able to access the huge audience base that have huge interest throughout. If you look at the viewing cycle, I mean, I think most people speak about that in most cases when we talk about viewing or audiences in general. If you look at viewing cycles in Europe, in the US compared to Africa, you'd see it's actually completely different per location. You would find my normal cycle is I wake up in the morning, I pick up my phone, I start checking my mails and stuff. I would watch some videos and stuff. I'll get attracted to some few things. I'll check on my apps, and that will be my first cycle. Maybe from that time, I go straight to my laptop. I work. With COVID being in the process, you work a bit, you watch videos, you watch funny stuff, and then you move away to your tablets. And then from your tablets, you would work a bit, you move around, you have lunch, and then you come back to your laptop. And then towards the evening, you do away with your laptop, goes back to the big screens, because if you have a kid, the kid would want to watch, you know, some cartoons or some funny stuff that would make them happy. So you put that on. So the viewing cycle has changed even with COVID in, and it's actually increasing the pace at which people are watching more OTT stuff in Africa. Because literally the fact is that people have moved away from working straight at the office from 8 to 5 in most of these countries to working straight in their houses, in their homes, at the time that it's quite flexible and quite easy for them to do most of this stuff. So most people would finish their work quite early and do other stuff, move on to giant screens and start watching football, move on to their tablets and start watching different stuff. So with that in play, we'd actually see that most OTT platforms are strictly moving on to what audiences are preferring. So you would want to be on TV. Even on TV, you want to be on all kinds of TV. You would want to be on the Samsung, LGs, and everything. You would want to be on even gaming consoles. That is actually becoming the real thing right now. People are moving into games. Most OTT platforms are moving into development on games that would allow their customers to also, well, I played a game for some time. Well, I can actually be on Yflix or be on this platform and actually watch this content. And we've seen the change coming. It is not too huge in Africa, but it's been fueled, as rightly said by Gerald in his previous talks about COVID coming in to fuel, change the whole dynamics about how we consume content and how we actually watch stuff in between screens as well. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Louis. In fact, this conversation is taking me back to I think it was 2 years ago, there was a group on, it must have been Snapchat, where interestingly, it was Nigerians, I think in the United Kingdom. And they were taking turns on who was running the account for that day. And the content was literally just a Nigerian relating their life in the United Kingdom. So what their daily routine is. And you had a lot of eyeballs on that. So I'm bringing this in now, Jared, because we're talking about other ways that content creators, I mean, these people were essentially content creators sharing their lives, but what other ways could content creators find avenues to actually monetize their content?
I think I'll take it back to kind of what COVID did, and what I believe COVID did, and what we all saw is we had no access, right? People had no access to their facilities. They had no access to sporting events, et cetera, but we still needed to get monetization out of that. We still needed to demonstrate that. So because everyone was locked at home, UGC, phones, Zoom, all of those kinds of tools, which we've now created a version of that called Party Line, which is for professional broadcasters, right? For high quality. It solves a lot of the problems that you have in those environments. But it was all about access. And now that largely, especially in different places of the world, people are starting to come back to events in person. People are starting to do this. We didn't lose any of that learning. And so what we found is that utilizing that as a secondary kind of monetization, right? Being able to provide this digital layer of access into places that, say, people couldn't go before, outside the locker room with a high five cam where you can talk to your favorite players because you paid VIP access to be able to have the soccer team kind of give you the digital high five, and then you're on the big board when they run out onto the field, or the ability to have access and user-generated content in different environments so that people can have watch parties, they can have different experiences. And so I really think this medium of sitting in front of a TV, although there'll always be that big screen viewing, the TVs that we're buying, to the earlier comment, are essentially computers now, right? I just signed into a TV yesterday. It was trying to watch a football game, and I didn't have access to it, so I signed into another provider to watch the football game. And the provider's like, sign in with your fantasy league, sign in with any sports betting that you're doing. And then what I was seeing happening is those secondary graphics, those contextualizations that made that content even more valuable to me, were being handled and rendered at the device level, right? Or at the phone level. And so I think even your phone, you largely cast that to a bigger screen if you're watching with family. So I think the lines between sizing and medium and delivery are all blurring, and the ability now to bring audience in and make them a collaborator in the environment that you're creating, it completely creates a new level of business model experimentation. And the technology that broadcasters, that creators have to have, has to be flexible to allow them to test that out. Because one of the things I keep telling, kind of our team, is that there is no going back to normal. I know we are all holding our breaths and we're all waiting for things to just, whisk back to the way they were before we went through the last 2 years. And God, I wish that were true, but it's just not what's going to happen. Everything has changed. New skills have been developed. New habits have been ingrained, and people are looking for, especially organizations, are looking for a way to be able to monetize differently, to be able to experiment, try things out. Because it used to be, you want to try a new channel, you want to spin up a new television channel, it costs you $300,000-$400,000, right? You got to get all of the equipment in place. You have to have all of the operations always ready to do that. Now you can spin that up with a single mouse click, put your channel on air. If the channel makes money because your content is good, you can double down on it and spin up 3 or 4 more channels. If it doesn't, you can learn your business lessons from it, refine your business plan, and experiment again with something else. We just have a whole new set of tools that COVID has provided us with. I mean, and if that's the silver lining, that will allow the democratization of content, that will allow easy access to be able to syndicate content to any platform you ever wanted to do it. That'll open up the way we can create content on a phone, that if you were watching that content, if I were to tell you some of the big networks, and like we did a big sporting event with a very, very large network league where they used 12 iPhones to shoot a very, a large game, and all of the contributors and the sports announcers were remote, utilizing iPhones, and it looked incredible. And so what used to be a very, very high cost game to get into, that you had to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment in, the playing field is level. And so we say, let the best content win, and let's enable people to make content cheaply, and let's enable people to make content accessible to everyone. And I think that the best storytellers are going to emerge from all of that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that's that's a very comfortable place to be getting into. But Adi, I'm going to try and bring this question to you the way I've understood it as it's come to us. Just for existing content, we're talking about television content now, for example. Digital platforms really just become an additional revenue stream, right? So at this point, can local productions be more cost efficient with the revenue share model with, for example, subscription video on demand platforms?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Okay, so I'm going to try and compress it to you. Just in terms of like, can local productions be more sort of cost efficient with the revenue share model? I'm talking how it's come to us is that, for example, your existing content, right, on television, by the time that's put on a digital platform, that is just additional revenue, right? So the question, yeah.
Yeah, maybe I can talk from a YouTube, because I'm not sure about like subscription models, but I can talk from a YouTube POV. I mean, I think, so anyone that's on YouTube that is part of our YPP program. So our YPP program is a YouTube partner program. And once you reach 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, then you're eligible for that. As long as you're not re-uploading someone else's content, you don't have any copyright strikes, you're in good standing, all of that good stuff, then you qualify to start monetizing your content, right? And basically, we see a lot of producers who have their content on TV, but are still bringing it to YouTube for an additional lens, an additional stream of revenue, right? Because you can monetize through ads, you can monetize through what we call alternative monetization, which is super chats, super stickers. On YouTube, you can monetize through membership. So if, for instance, you had a really premium content that you wanted to give to people who sort of pay an additional fee on your channel, you can monetize through that. So I think there are definitely so many ways for content creators to monetize on YouTube. We actually say there are 10 different ways. I think some of those ways, like ticketing, are not yet launched in Africa, but we have merchandising, we have super chat, we have super stickers, and ads is definitely the biggest one. Where you can monetize your content through the advertisers that we have on the platform. So I don't know if that answers the person's question, but there are definitely ways you can monetize your content on YouTube.
Louis, I'll bring that same question to you. Perhaps you just want to elaborate on that point from a Yflix perspective.
Yeah, on our side on Yflix, what basically we do is we're looking at a very simple way of monetizing content for content creators or filmmakers or distributors that comes in contact with us. Currently, we have over 1,000 of them, young content creators and big companies as well. And what basically we do is just revenue share. We split revenue with you every month. It doesn't matter the number of views you have. It doesn't matter the number of streaming hours you have per your customer. All we actually do is, count how much your content is doing per view. And basically we split revenue with you. And in that way, the content creator or, that young guy that sits somewhere, creates amazing content, has lots of view on our platform, will basically get something at the end of the month, every time he uploads new content. And that's the thing for us. And it's been really phenomenal. I mean, when we started this, I don't know if it's been done in most places. We know it's actually been happening in the music industry, where you put your content on with likes like Spotify, Apple Music and others, where they will split revenue with you. We do the same way. We look at your content plays and we split revenue with our customers. And I feel this is one new stream that we've actually introduced into the video streaming or content streaming industry that we think, with respect to us, like a lot more companies can actually look at doing the same. That puts money back into young filmmakers' pocket every month. And yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, fantastic. Somebody did have a question about Google's plans to make internet more sort of affordable and accessible at some point. We don't really have a Google representative on this particular platform, so I think I'm going to give that one a miss for now. But we've got 2 minutes left, guys, and just coming back to, of course, the theme of what we've been gathered about here today. We're talking about African content. We're talking about monetizing local content on digital platforms. Just your takeaway sentences. I would have liked paragraphs, but I've not been very judicious with my time. So we'll do it this way. Jared will come to you, then we'll go to Louis, and then Adi.
I think that we're in a user-generated content revolution. I think the cloud has completely changed the paradigm about what it means to have infrastructure and what it means to have a cost base to be able to create content, to be able to compete and monetize content. I believe the best ideas of monetization in this new world, especially utilizing multiple syndication points and digital elements and different levels of connectivity, have yet to be discovered. And building all these tool sets out, it's an open new world for us to try new things. We've all been through a lot of terrible times, but I think there's some good that will come out of all of this. And I think that enabling people to get stories immediately, enabling people to be part of every story, and enabling people to create content and create viewership in a different way is really exciting. And I look forward to partnering with this industry and people like the professionals on this call to make that happen. So thank you for the time.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Jared. Louis, very quickly.
Yeah. So for me, I think the future of local content, even versus OTT plays in the industry or in Africa, is going to be more exciting, with greater opportunities for content creators to monetize and find more effective and efficient ways of reaching a much larger and more given target audience. That's what I think.
Thanks for that, Louis. And Adi.
I think for me, I'll say, as long as you have a phone, you have a story to tell, you have some creativity to share, do it. You'll be able to build an audience. And once you build an audience, the monetization will come. I think on YouTube, the creators and content providers that monetize the best are the ones who are focused on building an audience. And once you build that audience, monetization will come. And I think the good thing about YouTube is we are focused on making sure that our creators can actually monetize their content. And that's why, again, we have this like 10 different ways for you to monetize. So I think get your voice, get your creativity, build your audience, the money will come.
Thank you. And that does it for our time. Thank you so much, Louis, Manu, Jared Timmins, and Adi Owofisayo. Thank you so much for myself, Christine, and the team who brought this to you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having this conversation again next time. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.